Today, we are delighted to feature two alumni. Our presenter, Stephanie Staab, CAS 2002 and STEINHARDT 2006, and our moderator, Jessica Bino, CAS 2004 and Wagner 2005. Jessica is a former president of the NYU College Alumni Association, and she is currently vice president of the NYU Alumni Association Board. Jessica is Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer at Pencil, a nonprofit committed to connecting students to success. If you have questions during the session, please enter them in the Q&A box on your Zoom screen. And please also edit your name to your full name so we can track attendance. Thank you again for joining us. Jessica, take it away.
Thanks so much, Heather, and welcome everybody for joining us this afternoon. Personally, I'm extremely excited about today's program. It brings together two of my personal passions, NYU and wine. So I'm really excited to hear from Stephanie today. I'm sure all of you are as well. Stephanie Staab is the Marketing and Business Development Manager at Avonsall Winery in Temecula Valley, Southern California wine country. And she's founder of the Lux Sip. She was recognized with merit for blind tasting in the Wine and Spirit Education Trust Level 3 Advanced Award in Wines. Stephanie holds an MA and BA from NYU, along with an MBA in Luxury Brand Management from ESSEC Business School in Paris, France. Stephanie is a director on the NYU College Alumni Association Board of Directors, and I'm really proud to serve with her. She's been one of our most engaged alumna, particularly from out in the West Coast and organizing events like this. So Stephanie, I will turn it over to you. And for our audience and participants, I look forward to calling Stephanie's attention to any questions. So please use that Q&A box. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Heather. I'm so excited to be here today. And thank you to everyone that I have gotten some emails from classmates, and I'm glad to see you here virtually today. As Heather mentioned, I'm here in the heart of Southern California wine country, and I'm fortunate to work at a winery and also be involved with various groups out here, along with living right here in wine country as well. So I wanted to make this a very accessible class for you guys. This is Introduction to Summer Wines. I found all of the wines on your list at Trader Joe's, and each bottle is under $20. So as I mentioned in the notes for the class, you can feel free to try all 5 of the wines I suggested, or you can also feel free to open 1 bottle, 3 bottles, it's up to you. So I'm going to give you a few tips from the trade of how you can enjoy your wine better. And I did try to pick some wines that are maybe some you might not have heard of. So I wanted to start off, I do have in my selection today 5 wines, 4 of which are going to be white wines and 1 is a red wine. I'm going to start with a Portuguese Vinho Verde, which I found out about when I lived in Paris and in London, and I had a best friend at NYU, and her family was from Portugal. So one summer, I ended up in Portugal, and that is where I learned about Vinho Verde. So our first wine is going to be this nice wine. So what vinho means in Portuguese is wine. Verde means green. So this is the green wine. It's a very young wine. This does have a screw top. So you are going to find sometimes on white wines that you might have a screw top. There is nothing wrong with that. You drink white wines very young, so you're going to drink them early anyway. So what I'm going to do is pour some of my wine into my glass. Now I'm going to use this glass for my red wine and my white wine. So basically what you're going to look for in a glass is you want something that has a nice full volume so you can get air in there. You're going to have thin sides that taper upward to direct aromas to your nose. You're going to try to avoid those small, thick-walled glasses. Those won't give you as good of a flavor. So I'm going to take my wine and pour it in my glass. Now, I want to teach you something interesting called the 5 S's of wine. So that is something really fun that we do in the industry, and it stands for C. You might think, oh, I'm just drinking it, but what is your first sense? Wine uses all of your senses, so actually you want to look at it. And what you can do is you can either hold it up to a light, you do it at an angle, it really helps you to see it, or you can take a white paper and hold it over the paper, and then you can see your wine very clearly without any other colors interfering. So that's just fun because you can see if the wine is lighter or if it's more yellow, or with the rosé, we're gonna see that nice color, or for red wines, you'll see that as well. So just always give it a look. Then you're gonna swirl it. So that's the second S. So you can swirl it like this, or what I like to do, if you're not in the habit of it, you can put it down on your counter. So you put it on your counter, put your fingers like this, and then you can swirl it on your counter, and then you won't be afraid that you will lose your wine. Okay, so we have that. Now what's next? We're gonna sniff it. So put your nose all the way inside the glass, okay? Take a really big sniff, don't be afraid. And what you're going to do is sniff it in through your nose and breathe it out through your mouth. And this is aromatic. You're going to find that if you pay attention, maybe even close your eyes a little bit, when you breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth, see if you can sense anything on the back of your throat. And you could do this with any of the white wines that you've opened. It doesn't have to be this one. Next, we're gonna sip it. So sipping is the 4th step. And what you wanna do when you sip it is you're gonna actually take air in your mouth. It's gonna be like a reverse whistle. So you wanna hear those air bubbles in your mouth. Now, be careful. If you haven't done this before, the first time you might choke a little bit, but you can try it, just be careful, and it will really be interesting. So this is just a very, very light, dry wine. It's a low alcohol, and this is gonna be something that you can enjoy outside when it's very warm. It's excellent with any kind of seafood, and you can just drink it by itself as well. Very light and refreshing. So some of you might have made yourself a little charcuterie or cheese platter. So feel free to enjoy that as we go along. You can try different pieces of cheese or fruits that you have with the different wines and see how they taste differently with the different flavors of wine that you have. Now, a trick that is very important for this is you're gonna wanna put your wine in your mouth at the same time with the food. Don't be afraid. So I heard an analogy that you wouldn't eat a French fry and then go eat a mouth of ketchup, right? You're gonna dip your French fry in that ketchup and put it all together. Well, that's gonna be the same with wine and any food pairing. You're gonna wanna just mix it all together in your mouth. You will always try the wine first by itself and then mix it in your mouth with whatever food that you're putting it with.
Stephanie, as you transition to the next wine, we do have a question from Kate, actually, who's very intrigued about orange wines that she came across on a travel show. I know you're not featuring any today, but do you have any recommendations or familiarity with it as you're moving to the next wine that we're going to have?
Sure. Well, orange wine is something that became really trendy kind of with among the sommeliers that kind of looking for the next interesting thing. I personally have only tried a couple of orange wines. They're not that easy to find. One resource I really, really enjoy is if you go online and look up Wine Folly. They are a really amazing resource that is very easy to see with flavor profiles and pairing suggestions. So if you would like to try an orange wine, if you're lucky enough to find one at your wine shop, I would definitely look on Wine Folly. That's my favorite source for looking up that stuff.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. And as you're also just so that folks can follow along, I think some folks might have missed the 5th S in your 5 S's.
Oh, I'm so sorry, you know, because I can tell you. The 5th S is to savor it. So what you're going to want to do, we might forget about that, but what is the whole point of wine? It's going to be your enjoyment. So once you know you've swirled your wine, you sniff it, you're kind of feeling those aromas and flavors, then you're going to want to hold it in your mouth a little bit and swirl it around. You can even swirl it around like mouthwash, and that will really give the flavor to coat your entire mouth and get in all the taste buds. And once you get to know that wine, that's when you're going to start, you know, maybe pairing it with your food and things like that. And that'll make your enjoyment just that much more intense while you have a wine. So with that, if you want to move on to the next wine, what you can do is if you are, of course, finish your wine. Here, I will use this as my quote unquote dump bucket. Something you can do if you're nervous for the next wine, I'll show you. Pour it in and then swirl just a little bit of your next wine, and then you can pour it out and be sure that, that you won't be mixing flavors. So I wanted to show you that this is the tool that I really like to use for opening wine. So most of these are already opened. Now, the next one up is a Chablis. Now, the reason I picked this is a Chardonnay from Burgundy. Most people here in the US are used to a big American style Chardonnay that's made with a lot of oak. So if you're used to hearing words like buttery Chardonnay and vanilla finish, all of those kind of flavors are going to be coming from an oak barrel. So what I find so interesting about Chablis is that it is a Chardonnay, but it is unoaked. So you are going to get completely different experience with this. It's going to be very acidic and bright, and it's not going to have those heavy flavors. So what you can do is just mix a little bit in, swirl it, and then you can dump it if you're worried, or you can dump it in your mouth too. So that's going to be our Chablis. The way that white wine is made is that it's fermented usually in stainless steel tanks. So they press the juice, and if you have something aged in stainless steel, you're going to really taste the fruit flavor and what the French like to refer to as the terroir. So that is the idea that everything that goes into making a wine makes it taste the way it does. So from the different kind of soil, if it's limestone or clay, if it's on a mountain, if it has the aspect of the sun that's coming at it, how much rain it gets. Out here in Southern California, we have very fruit-forward wines with high alcohol. And please feel free to be sipping this as you go and see if you can taste that nice acidity and fruit flavor.
And Stephanie, as you're sipping that wine, we do have a question about the first S again, which is the C. Are we looking for anything aside noting the color? Are we looking for or worried about cloudiness, or are we noting anything else?
Well, usually your wine is going to be clear because it's filtered. There are natural wines and some traditional European wines that might be unfiltered. It's pretty uncommon that you're going to come across those with what you're purchasing, unless, as I said, it might be a more natural wine. Some people do that for the style. You might come across something that we refer to in the industry as wine diamonds. Sometimes you can get a little bit of crystallization, that's tartaric acid, and that's nothing to be afraid of. But in general, you're going to see like a white wine. It's going to be pretty young. Like this is 2018. Now that's referred to as the vintage. The vintage is the year that the grapes were picked. So white wines tend to be pretty young. So it's picked 2 years ago, it's already in the bottle and we're drinking it. If you were aging a white wine, it might take on a little darker color, whereas a red wine might take on a little lighter color, might look a little orange around the edges. So you could kind of see like, oh, this wine, you know, might look a little bit older. But yes, if you see cloudiness, generally that might be, it could be a fault, and then you might want to, you know, follow up with smelling to see if you smell anything musty, or that's usually going to happen in a red wine because they're going to sit in their bottles longer, and you might get the cork if it's bad. You might have a problem with that. But yeah, generally we're just trying to see the color, and like in the wine industry, you could go really deep into, you know, nuances of color, but at home, we're not going to go that deep. So I hope that this is something very interesting for people. Again, this is something nice to pair with seafood. You could do it with a soft cheese. You could do oysters, really good with this. And a friend who's French said that this, in France, typical pairing would be with foie gras. So if you wanted to do something decadent, that would be a really good pairing. Okay, so moving on to the next one. I wanted to show you this. This is one of my favorite French rosés, Whispering Angel. I really like French rosés because they are dry. So if you're a sweet drinker, these first three wines might not be your favorite. But for me, what I really appreciate about what they call old world wines, which is going to be, you know, found in Europe, is that they have a tradition of which grapes are used, what style is used, what alcohol level you can have. And so you're gonna find a consistency in product, whereas, for example, out here in Southern California wine country, we have a lot of experimentation. There's all kinds of different grapes that are grown out here, and everyone has a rosé, but there's different styles. They could be sweet, they could be, you know, heavier. This one is gonna be, this will be a fun one to look at the color. So if we take this, it's gonna be like almost like a light salmon color if you hold it up over your paper. Let's see if you can see it like that. So super, super light color. And again, this is something that, oh my gosh, it gets so hot out here. It's over 100 degrees in the summer. The grapes really like the hot weather, so it gets over 100 and then it cools down at night and get some breezes. But personally, when it's that hot, I don't want to be drinking red wine because it's a little too heavy. So I love to sip on a rosé. You can take this, give that a nice sniff. And this is something actually I think is really good. I had some melon the other day, cantaloupe. It's about the same color and it's a great pairing. And I had something really good in Italy that was cantaloupe with prosciutto, and that would be a really, really nice pairing with this. But you can put it with salmon or a salad, and pretty much the light food, or it's really nice to sip on its own as well. And so one question that people do ask sometimes, let's see this. What do you smell? You could smell something different than what you taste. Smell strawberries. People ask, well, did you put strawberry flavor into the wine? No. When we're talking about flavors of wine, these are compounds that are inherent within the grape, and they can remind us of other fruit flavors, sometimes vegetables, and sometimes minerality, rocks, all of those things. So when we talk about aromas and flavors, it's going to be something that's just inherent in the grape. We didn't add any flavoring. And if you want to get to be a really good wine taster, what you can do is make sure you visit the farmer's market. Like Jessica, I'm sure you would be a very, very good wine taster because of your culinary background. So you can only smell or taste as much as you know on your palate already. So rosé is kind of interesting how that's made. That is going to be pressed for a little bit of time with its skins to get that color. And then it's going to be taken to the stainless steel tanks, just like the white wine is. And that's how that's going to be finished. All right, so we have about, I think, 10 minutes left. So I'm going to move on to our red wine.
And Stephanie, as you're transitioning, there's another question about natural wines, and what does natural wine making process look like? What does it introduce any particular flavors? So can you talk a little bit on natural wine making?
Yes. Okay, so that's really interesting. And the funny thing about wine is that it's a very complex process for it to be made. So there's a lot of different steps along the way in how you decide to make your wine, starting from your vineyards. So you're going to be looking at, again, that's that concept of terroir. So when you're in your vineyards, are you using the natural rain? For example, in California, we can't do that because, or I should say Southern California, because we do not have enough rainfall. So we have to use irrigation. Then are you going to use pesticides for certain bugs or, gophers, whatever it is? Are you going to be using chemicals for that or natural means? Like we have owl boxes here. They patrol at night. They eat any rodents. And then we have hawks in the daytime. So we make it really friendly for those natural predators to come in so that we're not using pesticides. There's a bunch of different classifications for biodynamic wine, all sorts of things. Then when you're making the wine itself, as I was talking about earlier with cloudiness, for example, there's certain things that are going in your wine that you don't know about, like egg whites, for example, that are gonna stick to those wine crystals and get them out of the wine so that it's perfectly clear. Then with red wine, there's all sorts of things that people can put in, whether it's like coloring to make it a darker red or bark chips, like oak chips to be like, if you're not putting it in a barrel. So anyway, there's just a lot of technical things. And then the move to natural wine is kind of to see like, how can we make wine in its natural essence without, how much stuff do we really need to do interventions to make a good wine? So that's it. It's kind of like a growing category, but that's definitely a different approach. It's not the standard, and that's going to be something that you're going to have to kind of seek out. It's not as easy to find those. Okay, so this one, dealer's choice. I said, why don't you guys pick your favorite red? And the trick, I hope you guys tried it, was put it in your fridge for about 20 minutes. And then you take it out for a little while. Oh, I should mention that about the wines too. I've had my white wines out this whole time. We tend to drink our white wines too cold. And if you do that, you can't taste all the flavor nuances. So you're gonna wanna let your wine sit out a little bit, and they don't have to be ice cold. Now with our reds, we drink them too hot. So with that, you're just gonna taste a lot of the alcohol. So if you just give it a little bit of a chill in your refrigerator, nothing extreme, you don't wanna put in your freezer, but that will actually give you more fruit flavors in your wine. So again, I'll do my little rinse trick. Just rinse it out a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna put my red wine in here. So I'd be curious to see if anyone, if you can taste the difference, because I think you will be able to. So this is like a little bit of a lighter kind of red. You can see it with the light. This can vary. I picked a Garnacha from Spain. It's Grenache in France. We have it in the US. You can find a lot of places. I also suggested maybe Tempranillo or Zinfandel, something Malbec, a little bit more fruity, a little bit lighter. For me in the summer, I don't want to drink something heavy like Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot. That's more like winter. For me, when it's really hot, as I said, it's in the hundreds out here. But this one is gonna be really fun with any kind of barbecue sauce, any grilled meats. You might have a question. You might have heard that only white wine can go with fish or chicken, and red wine has to go with meat. That's not necessarily true. So if you have barbecue chicken, you could do this. If you have, a heartier fish like salmon, that often pairs very nicely with a lighter red wine. Pinot Noir would be another nice lighter one, or Beaujolais. There's a lot of interesting varietals. If you go to your wine store, you could ask them about that. And just try something new, try something you've never heard about. Because a lot of people tend to just get in the habit of purchasing that go-to wine that's, you like it. But get out there and try something new and you'll really enjoy it.
So Stephanie, as you're savoring your lovely wine there, we do have a number of questions that have been popping up. And just a reminder, we have until 5:45, so no need to rush through the next wine. So so two questions about I would say kind of jazzing up your wine. One question is how you feel about wine spritzers, and the other question is, do you recommend adding frozen grapes to your red wine to cool it off on a summer day? So some questions about, you know, some service there.
Yeah. Well, for me, I probably drink wine every day. And we do a lot of fun things out here in wine country, a lot of different wineries with fresh sangrias and spritzers, and even rosé slushies are kind of a fad this summer. And I think it's all good, especially with your summer wines. These are, we're not spending a ton of money on these wines, so it's no problem at all. I think it's totally fun. When I was in France, I actually had a wine class with Remy Krug, who, if you know Krug champagne, it's one of the top in the whole world. And he said, you know, they had so much champagne that he grew up with, they would put ice cubes in it on a summer day. So, you know, this is like, you know, a $200 bottle of champagne. They're adding ice cubes to it just because they have it around. So I think wine doesn't have to be so uptight. And I definitely think it's really refreshing to have a spritzer. Frozen grapes sounds like a really cool idea. I've never tried it. But I've been known to at times experiment with putting an ice cube in something, or maybe making a spritz with some, I love the La Croix seltzer water with all the different flavors they have. So yeah, I think have fun with it. You can definitely do that. If you look up, there's a traditional French aperitif. It's called a Kir or Kir Royale, and it's you can just add like a little syrup to your, it's a fruit syrup. It's a cassis berry, which is like a red berry. And you add that to a white wine, and it's a little bit sweet. And anyway, so yeah, no, I think definitely have fun with your wines and see what kind of flavors you can put together. And it's gonna be lower alcohol than, you know, maybe get in a rut of just getting vodka, right? Because you can mix that with anything. And another thing I want to mention is don't be afraid to, you know, your bottles of wine, you can cook with them. Like, don't think like, oh my gosh, like I'm scared to try this wine, so if I don't like it, well, who cares? Just try it, and you can always use it for cooking.
So Stephanie, related to using for cooking and storage, we have a question about how long wine can keep unopened. Let's say if you have it opened or you know, unopened in a wine fridge at a regulated temperature versus opened and then resealed. What's the shelf life look like?
All right, so here is the thing. You, all right, let's talk about unopened wine. So most wine you're gonna buy is ready for you to enjoy right now. So a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get this wine. It's gonna be like $20 Bordeaux, and I'm gonna save it for 10 years. It's worth like $100 or whatever. But like your apartment, your house, unless you have a wine fridge, it's gonna be at the wrong temperature. And wine is really sensitive. It likes to be, you're gonna have to lay it on its side so it can breathe. And that's only if you're storing it for a while. Like if you're gonna be drinking your wine, please like keep it upright. You don't have to be putting it on its side. But you're gonna wanna have a wine fridge. If you wanna have any, you know, if you're gonna keep something for like a year or longer, get a wine fridge. They have little ones too, you can fit in an apartment. But I did want to mention what I really, really like is, here's what we use in the industry. The box, I'm not sure about the box. So this is a little vacuum right here. And these little pods, you can find this on Amazon. It's like $20 for the vacuum and 6 of these little closures. So what you do, we use this actually at the wineries because we open like, I don't know, 20 bottles of wine, right? For tastings, people will get like 1 ounce tastings. So as you can imagine, sometimes we're not going to finish the whole bottle and we're not going to throw away that tasty juice. So these are so easy. You just pop it right in your bottle, okay? Line this up, and then you suck until you hear the click. And you can keep this for several days. So, you know, even if you want to have for me, I might like to start with a white wine, even at home, just, you know, especially now staying at home with the quarantine and everything. I love to start with a white wine, and then I like to pick out something that I'm going to have, you know, especially with my dinner, for example. But if my husband and I were not going to finish a bottle, we can do this and we can have it the next day. You can have it a couple days. Even if you put it like in your refrigerator, I think that helps it stay a little bit longer as well. So definitely these are wonderful to have in your life at $20.
And speaking of shelf life in the refrigerator, there's a question about your thoughts on boxed wine. I know my personal thoughts are they've gotten much better in recent years, but what are your thoughts on boxed wine?
Well, let me tell you about boxed wine. So it's actually very scientific. It's the same wine. Well, it depends obviously on the brand, whatever, you know, you can find different levels. But the thing is, the glass has been the default storage for a long time because it works. So this is going to keep all the air out. This dark color is going to keep the light out, both of which are not going to be good for wine. The cork is porous, right? So this cork, as I said, when it's laying on its side, that's going to allow for a minuscule amount of air to go back and forth. The problem, well, I won't say the problem. So boxed wine, I think, is perfect if you're making, as we we're just talking about spritzes, if you have a party and you're making a batch of sangria, get the boxed wine, because you're not going to taste the quality of the wine anyway, really, because you're going to be putting it with strong flavors of like the juice, and if you put brandy in it and all of that. So definitely go for that in your kind of entertaining outdoor party kind of thing. But the problem with the box wine is that the liner is plastic. So plastic just doesn't hold very long for keeping the wine fresh. So that's really the problem with that. So it's mostly just about the enclosure. Mm-hmm.
Great. And we have another question about some of your perspectives. There's been a question here that I haven't gotten to for a couple minutes, which is about your rosés and the question of Provence rosés versus other regions. And I'm going to tie that to another question that's on the chat about the difference between wine culture in Europe and the US, since somebody, you know, specifically pointed to a French wine. So kind of if you can envelope those two questions in one.
Sure. Well, I think for me, I have a very European outlook simply because, so I did study abroad at NYU when I was an undergraduate. I was 20 years old. So I grew up like, my family was really strict. We never had alcohol or anything. So I never tasted wine. And then when we were at NYU, I got to go on these fabulous trips to, we saw a cheesemaker, and we went to an estate of a winemaker in Bordeaux, and he, you know, told us the history of his family and everything. So anyway, I started out drinking Bordeaux wine. I didn't start with American wine. And then I did, you know, my MBA in Paris, and alcohol is one of the components of luxury. And we were lucky to go to some champagne houses and other places in Europe, and just, I feel like I've really gotten to know European wine, and I just feel like they've figured out which grapes grow where and how to make their wine to the best expression of those grapes in the terroir. And as I said, you kind of know what you're going to get. So it's not going to say, like, it doesn't tell me what the grape is. For, you know, Chablis, it says Chablis, or the rosé. So like, you have to have a little bit more knowledge of what's in your wine. You can do a little bit of research. But once you find a style you like, if that's your style that you like, they tend to be, you know, a little bit lower alcohol, a little bit, I almost want to say like thinner texture. Oftentimes because it's in general a cooler climate than we're going to have over here. So over here, you're going to have like bigger, fruitier, bolder wines. And so for me, it's just a matter of personal taste. So if you really like that fruit forward kind of wine, you might find that out here. And then with rosé, it just, you know, I've tried a lot of different ones, and I guess for me, it might also just be memories of, you know, sitting in the south of France. I spent a summer in Nice, and I just probably have memories, personal memories of having wines like that kind of shaped my taste. But there's many wines that, you know, they all have their different qualities, and it's about finding like what your personal tastes are. So just try a couple different styles, and then you can kind of see what you like, and then it's up to you really, like what your taste is.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. And I know we have one more wine to taste that people are eager for you to get to.
Okay.
So I know we've had just so many questions, which is wonderful. And for those that have been asking, this is being recorded and it'll be available and shared for everybody. So if you missed something, or if your audio dropped or something like that, it'll be available. So back to you, Stephanie.
All right, thank you so much. This one I'm really excited about. So this is our Riesling. This is a sweet Riesling. So Riesling can be dry or sweet. It's really an interesting grape. It's a aromatic varietal. So aromatic, that means you can really, really smell it. And it's gonna have a lot of aromas. So this is the fun one that I didn't really suggest any specific pairings in your journey, but if you do have, if you did get that spicy jalapeno jack cheese or something like that, you're gonna wanna try it with this, because it's a really fun trick for when you're pairing. You can either do like flavors or opposite flavors. So if you take a sweet wine and you put it with something spicy, it's gonna accentuate both the spicy and the sweet. And so a modern pairing, because a lot of people think Riesling's old-fashioned, but a really fun modern pairing you could do easily in New York would be with Thai food. And that'd be really, really fun. So this one, you're definitely gonna wanna swirl. Okay, so get your swirl on and then put your nose all the way in. Okay, we're gonna wanna sniff this one. And you're gonna wanna do the thing where you try to let the air go in the back of your throat too, because you'll be able to almost taste it on this one. Now, if you had the other wines, if you see this one, see how this is more of a, they were more of like a light straw color. This is like a more of a yellow color. So it's just, doesn't mean good or bad. It's just different grapes have different colors. Yeah, this one, definitely swish it in your mouth like mouthwash. Try it. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. So Riesling that'd be pretty easy to find at your wine store. Some other ones you might wanna try are called Muscat or Gewürztraminer. And I never really drank wines like that till I came out to Temecula, Southern California. And on our vineyard, we have some old Muscat, a little bit older Muscat, Canelli grapevines that we make wine from, and Gewürztraminer. And it's just so interesting when you actually taste the grape when it's in season before they pick it, and the sugars are very high. So sugar is what converts to alcohol. But it tastes so complex in the flavors, and it comes through nicely in the wine that you're tasting.
So Stephanie, when you're buying a Riesling, what kind of keywords might you be looking for if you're not a wine connoisseur and trained in this to describe the wines?
Well, you know, I must say when I was studying for, you know, my exams and everything, there's these very technical German words like Auslese and Spot, whatever, I can't even say them, but those are really technical, and I found that they're not always maybe listed. So for example, when I was doing my wine selection at Trader Joe's, they had, and I've seen this a lot too at other wine stores, where they'll have like the little placard that has the description, and usually it's going to tell you if it's dry. So dry means not sweet, and then, or if it's more sweet. And I say you should always ask someone that works there, because that's what they're paid for, and they're going to know what their inventory is, and you can tell them like what your price range is, what you're looking for. And so I definitely advocate for purchasing your wine from a wine store and asking someone who works there if they could help you out.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. And we noticed that, I know that you said in the beginning, you talked about the screw caps for the white wines. We have a couple of people asking the question of screw cap versus cork, and is one better, or are they just different?
Yeah, so those are just different. So traditionally, you're gonna have the cork, and even within cork, like you're gonna have different ones. So these don't really have that fancy of corks, but like these corks that I have, they're like a composite. I don't know if you can see that. So cork is actually really interesting. It grows on a tree in Portugal, and they shave it off, and then they pop out each individual cork. And then those are, pushed in. So as I said, with the red wine, it's gonna stay in the bottle. So it's gonna age first in the oak barrels to get, the flavors of, as we said, like vanilla or anything that's non-fruit flavored that can come from that oak and give a little bit more complex flavor. So, but you can't just drink that right away after the barrels. It has to then sit in its bottle for a little bit too. So that's why also red wines are more expensive, because it's a lot more labor intensive for every part of the process. But anyway, so they're gonna want to have a little bit of airflow. And it's gonna depend on how long, the producer intends to even age the wine, what kind of cork they'll pick. So for white wines, you don't really need that air exchange, because as I said, you're drinking it super young. So all you need to do really is just actually keep the air out. So the screw cap is usually gonna be on white wines, not so much on red wines. It's probably gonna be on like red wines that you don't really wanna drink, I would say. For red wines, you're probably gonna wanna look for the ones with the cork. But yeah, so then also for the white wine, I mean, if you're just saving it for a day, you can feel free to just screw that back on and put that back in the fridge too. It's pretty low key.
Great, thanks so much. We also have a number of questions about your perspective on Bordeaux. Are you enjoying Bordeaux nowadays? Do you have a favorite one that you could buy at a Trader Joe's? So a number of questions there.
Oh my gosh, okay, so I would say that Bordeaux is actually one of my favorites. And funny enough, so your two main grapes of Bordeaux is gonna be Sauvignon Blanc and Merlot. Oh, and my dog, actually, we have a beautiful Labradoodle, and his name is Bordeaux. But I love Bordeaux. And you can find a real variety of prices in Bordeaux. So you can find them at the store for even like $20. Or, I mean, I've had one that was like $1,500, and let me tell you, that was amazing. It was aged. So there's like a huge range within Bordeaux, and there's also a range of like different areas within Bordeaux. So you're gonna get different flavors, different styles, and depending on like left bank, right bank, that's gonna be like, is it more Merlot, is it more Cabernet Sauvignon? So the Bordeaux are kind of fun to do a little bit of research on. And again, I don't know if you have the store back there, but my favorite wine store out here is called Total Wine. And they have just such a variety of wine from all different prices. And so something that I think is really fun to do is you can get a couple, try a couple different, like open 3 different bottles maybe, maybe like when we can have friends over again and things like that. So you can all go in together, like buying the wine, and then try like a $20 bottle and up to like, I don't know, like a $65, $80 bottle, and see what the differences are. Or try one that's like going to be more like a left bank and try versus a right bank. And I feel like for me personally, how I was able to learn tasting is like, if you just have a glass of wine, you'll be like, oh, that was good. But you won't have as much perspective as if you taste things at the same time. So get 2 glasses of wine, like don't try to even put it in the same glass, like start with this one, this out. No, get 2 glasses of wine and taste them simultaneously, and then you can really pick up on the differences, the subtle differences, and you can take notes. It's kind of fun. You can even do it in your iPhone, just like I used to do that when I would go wine tasting, and I would just take notes. What I smelled, what I tasted, just the name of it and the price. And you can find these online these days, actually. You can find sometimes different tasting packages with wine. It will be shipped right to your house, and you might have like 5 different wines in the package, and they'll come with tasting notes from the sommelier. And so I think that's a really, really fun way to get to know wine, because like you're gonna have the education right there, and they'll have like the food pairings, so you could base the dinner around it. It'd be a really fun stay-at-home activity, and that's how you're gonna build up your wine knowledge and tasting ability.
Great, that's really all great suggestions, Stephanie. And I know we're just about at time here. Quick question, the wines that you shared with us in the email for the pre-work, are those the exact wines that you did taste with us today?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna post that for everybody asking for the specific names. I'm gonna just paste that in the chat so everybody can see the names of the wine. That was definitely a very popular question that we got from folks.
Yeah, you know, when I was, as I said, I went to Trader Joe's because I know a lot of people have a store, and it was, you know, I found accessible pricing, and they had definitely several choices. So even you could try at Trader Joe's, if you liked any of these flavors, you could try a couple different ones and see what your favorite is.
Great. All right. Well, I know there were a number of questions, a handful of questions that we didn't necessarily get to, but I also know it's 5:45. I know, Stephanie, you have a little one that I'm sure you're getting back to. But I'll save this one last question, which somebody asked what your favorite wine was. So I wanted to save that one for last.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, my favorite wine ever in the whole world that I'm kind of addicted to is champagne. And I must say, I'm a total snob with champagne. I've tried all the sparkly wines from everywhere, and champagne is just more than an expensive beverage. It's very complex in the way that it is made, and even within champagne, you'll find different styles. So for me, I love to scour the internet for small producers. I'm not talking about, you know, Veuve Clicquot or Moet. Those are great, but I love to find small producers on the internet, ship them to my house, and I really, really enjoy tasting champagne, and I appreciate that traditional method that's made in.
Well, it sounds like that might be the theme for another event to taste some champagne with you, Stephanie. I know I would sign up for that one. Well, we really appreciated your time and literally opening your home and opening lovely bottles of wine. I hope everybody learned a lot, and cheers to you and cheers to everybody. Thanks for joining our program. More information on where the recording will be sent out to attendees. So thank you so much, everybody. And thank you, Stephanie. Round of applause.